So Reed, I'm going to get right into it because everyone's talking about a $10 trillion economy, and I've been told to cut 5 minutes off anything that's got to do with media and entertainment compared to a global economy. So you know where the priorities land for everybody, even though you're the
10 trillion, we need entertainment to be 1 trillion.
Exactly.
Okay.
So that's the soft power, and we'll come to that.
If everybody does their part of 10 trillion, it will work out.
Okay. So I think just to start off, and for the audience here, and to keep the context of what we're talking about in media and entertainment, but much more from a leadership and an entrepreneurship point of view. The big thing is, when do you spot trends? And I think in 1997, the key question is, when you were, as a company, renting videos, and then you moved to being this absolute powerhouse, the question is, in 1997, did you really see it? Could you see the future? Or was it just more opportunistic, serendipity, and a lot of other things that came in the way?
Well, we were very fortunate. We started in 1997 with DVD by post, and that was a full decade only in the US, just waiting for the internet to get fast enough. And finally, in 2005, there was the very first glimmer with YouTube, a little postage stamp video when we realized it's beginning. And then in 2007, we launched streaming in the US, in 2010, Canada, and now just 2 years ago here in India.
So does that mean the lesson here for everyone is it unfolds, or vision is really possible at a large scale?
Well, it definitely helps to be able to have confidence in the growth of the internet, but even we couldn't predict the last 2 years of the Indian internet growth. I mean, it's the most phenomenal example anywhere in the world in terms of lower data costs, more people online, expansion of 4G. It's, I mean, so fortunate. And we didn't see that coming. We just got lucky on that one.
Okay. So everyone talks about the global consumer, but I think, especially when it comes to storytelling, is there really a global consumer? Or is India and China global markets, or are they really local markets? And how do companies, and especially companies that tell stories, how do they look at globalization versus localization?
Well, to be very serious for a moment, the path to 10 trillion on beyond, the key thing is avoiding wars. If you look over the last 1,000 years, when you have a big war, there's an enormous setback. And one part of avoiding war is communities understanding each other, and one part of that is entertainment. We had a recent movie, Love Per Square Foot, thank you for that, Ronnie. Classic sort of Bollywood film, it's great. The key thing is it's doing well for us in India, of course, but it's also doing well around the world. In the US, in the UK, in Mexico. And the more that people see other people like them struggling to get an apartment, struggling to have a relationship, the more communality they feel. And one of the key things for Netflix is really this global sharing of content to increase average people's understanding. Most people around the world don't have a passport. They're not in this audience. And it's critical that they feel a sense of community with other people around the world. And if we can keep peace, then all the economies can grow.
So that's the nice part, because we thought always the challenge was, in India, you always had a problem finding a house, till you said, it's working so globally, it's a universal problem. Everyone has a house problem, especially when you're a younger generation. So I agree, stories do travel in very extents. So just moving to competition, I think where you're sitting, you had legendary media companies on one side, you have the telcos on the other side, and then you got the FANG companies, of which one of them is definitely you. So that's a lot of competition. And for a lot of people here in the business community, the big question is, do you really need to enter a crowded space? When do you enter a crowded space? Is it wise to enter a crowded space? And once you do that, actually, how do you deal with such a competitive environment? So what's been the Netflix formula for success?
Well, we're very fortunate that with entertainment, you consume from multiple channels. So it's not like you buy an iPhone or a Samsung. People watch Netflix and YouTube and Hotstar and linear TV, and the mix just depends on the quality of your shows. So if we've got great shows like Altered Carbon that everyone's excited about, then people will tune into us. So it's a constant bite to get people's interest. And that makes it very flexible, which is the only thing we have to do is make great content. And if we do that, then people will watch Netflix.
Anything on a global basis today with the kind of competition that's there for Netflix over the next 10 years, where do you see your sort of competitive moat building is what I would sort of ask. I mean, where does the moat come about?
Well, as a real global supplier, so instead of just being Hollywood to the world, we're now producing, we just announced 3 more TV shows we're doing here in India. Sacred Games is one that we've been working on hard. It's about the underworld in Mumbai, and that's coming in December, so, you know, a lot happening there. And then when we share those shows around the world, making them in Germany and bringing them here, making them in Spain and bringing them here, all of that is about what creates this rich global conversation that helps understanding.
So I think Sacred Games and your 3 other shows, Love Per Square Foot, is the beginning of that. So how much is of the $8 billion is coming from local and outside of the US as you go forward? Considering the growth of your customer base, the next 100 million, I think disproportionately will come international versus the US, I assume.
That's right. The next 100 million is from India.
The next 100 million is
That's
from
right.
India.
We're about 120 million so far around the world, about 60 million in the US.
So all we need to do is move that $8 billion annual budget for programming to $8 billion into India and then $1 billion for the rest of the world.
We look forward to investing, and the thing that's very unique about India around the world is that cable developed as essentially a free service where cable networks did not get paid. So cable television here is 100% ad supported with, of course, a very low access fee. That's unlike anywhere in the world. Every other country, Singapore, Mexico, Brazil, Japan, cable, it costs more and it has ad-free content, commercial-free content, premium. That hasn't been allowed to develop because of the cable infrastructure. And what Netflix, which is commercial-free, so you just get to enjoy it, it's more like DVD or like the movie theater as an experience, allows is an up-leveling of entertainment experiences at home. And so we're definitely trying to stimulate this economy so that people invest more in entertainment because they enjoy it so much. But there just hasn't been the offering because, again, unique compared to China, to Vietnam, everywhere, is the TV is completely ad-supported. And so that's what we're shifting with our premium space.
So that brings me to sort of price sensitivity, and I think Dara mentioned that you know, Indian consumers are very demanding at the lowest price point. So this is a large market, but it's a price-sensitive market. And if you look at that from a pricing strategy, I know when I started cable television 30 years ago to now, actually the per capita price that a cable TV owner pays or a household pays hasn't gone up in 30 years. And I think the Indian consumer, therefore, hasn't really decided that they want to pay for content. They might start paying for bandwidth now, but not for content. So given that pricing and having a universal price threshold for companies such as yours, how do you view attacking, to get the next 100 million consumers out of a country like this, you'd need to be a lot more flexible about it or rigid about it or pump up the programming, or what would the strategy be?
So Netflix is between 500 and 800 rupees per month, depending on the plan. So more than many other services, but about what a movie ticket costs. And so what we have to do is have such great content that people make the comparison to movie tickets and buying DVDs more than they do to cable. Again, on a global basis, what Indian consumers pay for cable television is very, very low, which keeps the industry smaller than it should be. The Indian entertainment business will be much larger over the next 20 years because of investing in pay services like Netflix and others.
But I guess, well, I think Apple's learned in some way that they've missed the bus here in many ways, I would say, because of their price sensitivity. And Samsung's taken over and many other local manufacturers are. So I guess I was just trying to repitch on the price sensitivity. You feel right now to hold on to it would be the right strategy and evolve that.
We want to be sensitive to great stories, you know, and to really invest and then to be able to fund those great stories by investing in local content. So yes, our strategy is to build up the local content. Of course, we've got the global content also, and to really try to up-level the industry.
So product overpricing would be the real approach here, and I think that would be, in some ways...
Sure, the pricing, you know, again, you know, at 500 rupees a month, it's more than cable, yeah. Okay, so that can be a shock. But compared to movie tickets and other things, other entertainment experiences, it's very well priced.
So almost everyone in this place here is aspiring that India becomes a sort of a global soft power. And in some ways, we do believe internally, as we introspect, that Bollywood is that, but actually we're not. We're 1% of the global box office, and in many ways, actually, we're larger than life because of our population and of our superstars and the number of movies we make. So just words of advice for you for really, can India make it to being a soft power?
So around the world, serialized TV is a much bigger industry than movies. But again, it hasn't been able to develop because of the only ad support. So Indian TV production values are much lower than movies. And what we're doing is investing, like Sacred Games, in high-touch series, you know, like Narcos, that has these great looks and a global appeal. And I think we'll be a giant exporter of Indian stories, because, of course, the rich storytelling, thousands of years, there's great stories
here. It all
here.
comes from here.
But it hasn't been able to find a market in television because of the lack of premium. So we hope to develop that market, develop those local shows, and be a great exporter, as well as sharer and importer of content from around the world.
And do we need global powerhouses for that? Because I think Disney takes the best stories from around the world, including European fables, and has made them into absolute, you know, sort of tentpole content across the world. And I think some of the best storytelling can originate from India. So is there some lesson to be learned where we can look at it from a global scale?
Yeah, I think we'll see with Sacred Games coming at the end of the year, the first big, spectacular Netflix series. If you enjoyed Narcos or The Crown, or
these some visuals at the back.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, yeah.
Very beginning. I think you'll enjoy this, and you'll see, you know, a different side of Mumbai. It's not a pretty, happy, dancy one. You know, it's crime and gritty like Narcos.